All right, let's talk about Windsor, Colorado, and all the great or not so great things about living in Windsor. Okay, let's talk about the pros and the cons of living in Windsor, Colorado. First of all, let's talk about the pros. Small town feel. Love Windsor, Colorado because it actually feels like a smaller town, even than it is in a way, the way that it's spread out. So you got your old town area, you got the high school right in the middle of town, which is kind of cool, and kind of one main street through town, so kind of that cute little old town feel to it. So I love that. Also with that, there's very low crime, so not a lot of the problems you get in the big cities, but Windsor's just this cute little town, not gonna have much crime. It's gonna be a safe place for your kids. The parks are really good. Eastman Park with the river floating around it and everything that you can do there, as well as Chimney Park. There's lots of great parks in the town and the bike trails throughout the city too. So a lot of great things going on with all that. And then schools, right? School. I already mentioned the high school is right in the middle of town. So is the middle school, which is kind of cool. And then we got a couple of elementary schools, more conveniently located near some of the places where you might be moving to. So again, schools are good. You're going to have great teachers who choose to live and work in Windsor, Colorado, and your kids are going to get a great education here in Windsor. So that's another huge thing there. And then really the last thing I think that makes Windsor, Colorado a really desirable place to live is just its central location, right? You're really close to Fort Collins, you're close to Loveland, you're close to Greeley. You can hop on I-25, you can be in Denver, anywhere in Denver, Boulder, or you can go north and you're close to Cheyenne. So a lot of places you can get to in a very short period of time. And honestly, like if you're gonna go to a Lowe's or something like that, you're about 7, 8, 9, 10 miles from Fort Collins, Greeley, and Loveland's, kind of big box stores. So you're right in the center of it all. So anyways, I think those are all the pluses about living in Windsor, Colorado. Not to mention we have great views from out here. You're not too close to the foothills, so you can see Long's Peak, you can see all those things, and it's still really convenient to get up into the mountains for your weekend camping trips or whatever you're doing there. Now let's talk about the negatives with living in Windsor, Colorado. I kind of mentioned that you're about 8 to 10 miles away from a Lowe's and a Home Depot, a Target, a Walmart. We don't have any of those things in this town. That is a plus, but it can be a negative. So if you're wanting to do some easy shopping at a big box store, we don't have any of those stores located here in town. We got a Walgreens, we've got a King Soopers, we've got a Safeway, so a dollar store. There's not a ton of shopping options, cute stuff downtown, but not those big box store shopping experiences that you may be used to wherever you're living now. So again, those are really only 8 to 10 miles away, but just know those are not here in Windsor. And then I guess another negative that people would say is the growth that we've recently seen. The town of Windsor has grown quite a bit recently, so that small town feel is getting harder to hold on to. But again, I still think it feels like a small town. I still think that all the crime and the schools and all those things far outweigh the fact that we've got more neighbors. I think having more neighbors and maybe some new restaurants and those kind of things are all positives also. So, and then the last kind of negative about Windsor, Colorado is that it is a little more expensive. You could probably buy a comparable house in Loveland for a little less money. You definitely can get that house in Greeley for less money. Fort Collins, maybe not. But the average cost of living in Windsor, Colorado, and that house that you're going to buy in Windsor, Colorado, is going to be a little more expensive than some of the surrounding areas. Now, you can still live in, like I said, Greeley, Severance. Timnath's pretty expensive, but possibly up in that area. And kind of curb some of that expense and still be in the Windsor school district. That's a possibility. People are doing that. But anyways, I've covered a lot of things here. There's a lot going on in Windsor, Colorado. My name is Andy Hawbaker. I love Windsor. I'll tell you what, I've lived in northern Colorado since 2005. I spent about 15 years in another town in northern Colorado, and I chose to live in Windsor. I moved to Windsor in 2019. So my kids go to Windsor High. Giant fan of the Windsor Wizards and everything about living in Windsor, Colorado. So if you have any more questions, anything else you want to know about that, reach out to me. I am the Windsor expert. So hit me up at my website, which is www.andyhawbaker.com. My name is Andy Hawbaker, and I'm an 8Z representative, a real estate agent with 8Z in the Windsor, Colorado office. You can always text or call me at 970-203-5066. Again, hit me up. I can't wait to talk about Windsor.